Welcome back to this tutorial from the Microlearning Institute on the topic of ethical conflict resolution. The IFAC code presents a process for ethical conflict resolution. This process has a number of steps, namely 1. Check all the facts, 2. Establish if there is an ethical issue, 3. Identify which fundamental ethical principle is involved, 4. Escalate your concerns internally within the organization, 5. Seek advice from perhaps outside the organization, and 6. Finally, refuse to remain associated with any ethical conflict. Let's look at these steps individually. Firstly, check the facts. So firstly, we need to identify and document all of the relevant facts about the alleged ethical conflict. Do not rely on assumptions or hearsay, but establish all of the facts. These facts may be relevant later in the event of an inquiry or another analysis into the event. We must also ensure that all viewpoints and perspectives are considered. So this will involve talking to a range of stakeholders who are involved in the alleged ethical conflict. Next, try to establish, is there an ethical issue? This is a very subjective judgment, but again, things like, does it feel right? Does this feel like the right situation to be in? Does this feel like the right thing to do? Perhaps refer to the code of ethics, where we look at things like objectivity and so on to try to establish, is there an ethical issue involved? Is there any relevant regulation or law or guideline or process which will help you establish if there's an ethical issue here? Next, identify the fundamental ethical principle involved. These fundamental principles, as we have already looked at, are integrity, objectivity, professional competence and due care, confidentiality, and professional behaviour. And we need to consider if our action is contravening any of these fundamental principles of ethics. If we can establish that it is, firstly we need to escalate the problem internally. So who are the key affected stakeholders internally within the organisation? Very importantly, is there an internal process within the organisation for dealing with this kind of ethical conflict? And if so, we should look to leverage that internal process as much as possible. However, if the internal process route is not working, then we should look perhaps outside of the organisation and seek advice. Perhaps we could look at the legal or regulatory advisors. We could maybe refer to our accounting institute. We could refer to the external auditor, or we could refer to some other consultant or independent advisor who is outside of the organisation. There may be an ethics helpline available from the organisation or through your accounting institute or any other institute to which you are a member. Most importantly, if there is an ethical dilemma and you cannot get it resolved, you should, as a professional, refuse to remain associated with the ethical conflict. We should dissociate ourselves from it, document everything because that may be necessary in any future analysis of the event, and take appropriate legal advice. Thank you very much for watching this short tutorial outlining the process for dealing with an ethical conflict within your organisation.